Good morning, guys. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Miss.
Hello, Miss.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We are just letting people in.
Okay.
All right, guys. So as I told you, the due date for the homework, you know, this big homework that was like 6 or 7 pages is going to be on Tuesday. So we're going to we are going to correct the homework on Tuesday. Okay. So if you did not submit your homework yet, please do it. All right. Okay. So what are we going to do today, Habiba?
Miss, I did the homework and I sent it.
Okay, very good. Now we are going to take the attendance. I need you to mute your mic, Ayman, please. Okay, so we're going to take the attendance. Adam? Adam is not here. Okay. Alia, she's not here too. Ayman is here. Bilal.
He is here.
I know, I want him to respond. Bilal. You unmuted your mic, but I couldn't hear you. So
Yes.
yes, okay. Dana. Okay. Habiba.
Yes.
Jaida.
Yes, Miss.
Layan.
Yes, Miss.
Malik. Is Malik here? Can't see him. He's not here. Okay. Mu'mina. She's not here too. Muhammad Ahmad. Muhammad Ahmad.
Yeah.
Yes, he's here.
Okay.
Yes, Miss.
All right. Muhammad.
Yes, Miss.
Nadim.
Yes, Miss. Yes, Miss.
Omar. Omar is not here. Saif.
Yes, Miss.
Suhaila.
Yes, Miss.
And
No, Miss, I'm here.
who are you? Ahmed? Muhammad Ahmed? Yeah, I know you're here. Tayyim? Tayyim is not here. All right, guys. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to start with a new lesson.
Miss, can I say something?
What?
That in the quiz of the science,
Oh,
I got 9 out of 10. The one wrong was force can. It said force can change the shape of an object. I wrote true, and it was wrong. In the book, it says force can change a shape of an object.
well, was it wrong with anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Miss,
oh,
that's
Miss,
also
yes, in the
happened
book.
with me. That also
Yes.
happened with me, and I opened the book.
Okay, let me check. So until I check what we're
Miss,
going
what
to
is
please
wrong?
mute your mics, guys. Mute your mics. Mute your mics. Mute your mics. Okay, until it opens and I check it, I'm just going to tell, please mute your mics. Mute your mics. Someone's mic is unmuted. Muhammad Ahmed. Mute your mic. So what we're going to do today is that we are going to start with a new lesson. It's about heat. And the heat lesson is really, really easy. There's no complicated concepts about it. It's just what we see every day, and it's scientific explanation. Okay, it's what we feel every day, and we can feel it very much yesterday and today, the heat. So we just need an explanation for this. What happens with any material that starts to generate heat, and why is the heat energy, how is it produced, or how is it, or why is it produced? So apparently I have something, it's a little bit laggy here, so I'm going to start the lesson and then I'm going to check, don't worry. Why are people sending me in the chat? Why are the people using the chat? You can raise your hand and I can give you permission to talk. I will not be able to handle everything at once, okay? Yes, Dana.
Miss, what is the problem? They are saying what is also them.
What is the problem? What is what? What is the problem? I couldn't
I'm
understand
saying
anything.
I'm saying they are saying that there was something wrong.
Well, they're saying that something is wrong with the quiz, that one of the questions answer, they did it right and it was considered wrong. So I'm checking it. Yes, I'm checking it. All right, so what is heat? First, to know heat, we need to understand what is the meaning of thermal energy. Thermal energy, the word thermal means heat, okay? The word thermal means heat. So what is thermal energy, or in other words, what is heat energy? Heat energy is the energy of moving particles of matter. What does that mean? In order to understand what does that mean, we will remember together one of the activities that we did in the first trimester, when I told you, when I brought the plates, if you remember, and I gave you this sticky note or glue stick, and I kept, yes, Ayman remembers it, and I told you to make
And
like,
we drew the particles.
yes, and you were sticking the particles according to whether those,
Oh yeah,
this
that was so fun.
okay, according to this, whether this matter is a solid, liquid, or gas. So I told you that in the solid state, the particles are really close to each other, and you have to put the particles really like sticking to each other. When you heat a solid material, like for example, if you have a piece of ice and you start heating it, it will start turning into what? When you heat a solid material, like when you heat the
Liquid.
ice, it starts, yes, it starts to turn into liquid. Why? Because when you heat this object, you are giving the particles inside the solid inside the solid object, you're giving the particles some energy, you are giving it some energy. So when you do so, the particles starts to move around, they start to move and shift really quickly, which when they do, they start to push the other particles away from them. So instead of sticking to each other, once you heat them and give them energy, they start to like move really quickly and push each other away. And this is why the particles of the liquid state is a little bit far away than the solid state. It's like when you are standing in a line, a perfect line, you're next to each other, and then you start to warm up before a game or something. So you start to move quickly, and this will make you like shift or move away from each other. So this is what energy of moving particles mean. It means that the particles, once they are heated, they start to gain energy, which make them move faster and move away or push away from each other. So this is what the thermal energy does. And it also happens when the liquid turns into gas. When you heat the liquid object, like you have water and you start to heat it more and more, the particles of the liquid will start to gain energy. You're giving it energy. So what happens? They start to move even more quickly and push even further away from each other to produce what state? To produce which state, guys? When you heat the liquid? Are you awake, guys? Yes, Layan, to produce what state?
To produce gas state.
To produce gas state, exactly. So this is what thermal energy is. The thermal energy, or in other words, heat energy, is the energy of the moving particles of matter. Once you give the particles of a matter energy, especially heat energy, they start to move quickly and move around even more, and this will make them like shift or move away from each other. Okay? Now we understand what thermal energy is. Now, what is heat? Heat only, without energy or anything. We know that the energy of heat, or the thermal energy, is the energy that occurs when the particle starts to move around. But what about heat? Now, the thermal energy is the scientific definition of heat. And why am I saying this? Because we understood thermal energy when we studied particles. We looked how the particles move when you give them heat energy. But how is that translated in nature? How is that translated in real life? What should I feel when someone's mic is unmuted? Muhammad Ahmed again. Please mute your mic. Please. Anyway, so what should I feel when this object has some thermal energy? How should I feel when this object has some thermal energy? Who can tell me? How should you feel when an object has some thermal energy? If you touch this thing, what will you feel? Yes, Habiba, do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, what will you feel if an object has some thermal energy?
We will feel hot.
Yes, you will feel that this object is hot, exactly. So once the particles inside any matter, once they start to move around because they have some thermal energy inside them, what do you feel? What can you see? How can you translate this thermal energy that once you touch the object that has thermal energy in it, you start to feel how hot it is? So the word heat means the flow of thermal energy from one object to another. How does that feel? You feel this once you touch an object that contains or has thermal energy in it. The thermal energy will start to flow or will start to move from this object to your hands. And this is how you translate it. You feel the hotness of this something. Okay, so the thermal energy, we are talking about what is happening inside the particles of an object. Heat is the flow of thermal energy. How do we feel? What do we feel once an object has thermal energy inside it. So the moving particles, the particles are moving because they have thermal energy, and you feel the heat because of the flow of thermal energy, because the thermal energy is moving from this object to your hands once you touch it. Okay, do you understand this part, guys?
Yeah.
Are you is there anyone confused? Huh?
No.
Okay, now let's move to the next step. Now we know that the thermal energy is the energy of a moving substance, and moving particles, and we know that heat. Oh, it shut down. Oh, okay, guys, I just need to the PowerPoint just collapsed, so I have to open it again. Okay. Now, in order to, we want now to put the heat and the thermal energy in data. We want to, I understand that we can feel the heat, but now for example, you have 2 glasses of water. One is hotter than the other, okay? When you put your hand in this one, you will feel that it's hot. And when you put your hand in the other one, it's also hot. How can we give a name or give an information about each of those liquids or each of those glasses that tell us exactly how much heat energy or how much thermal energy inside those objects? Meaning that I need something that I can rely to, something that I read, something that I can read and say, oh, this is hotter than that one because this has a temperature of X and this has a temperature of Y. And this is what I mean by giving it a specific data. It's not enough for us to know that this liquid is hotter than the other. I want to know how much thermal energy and how much heat energy inside each of those 2 glasses. I just cannot say in a scientific lab, when I'm going to the lab, I cannot just say that, oh, well, this glass of water is hotter than the other glass of water. What does that even mean? Give me some information that I can use to understand exactly what is the meaning of this glass of water is hotter than the other. And this is where the concept of temperature comes from. We are translating how much thermal energy is inside each of those liquids. By doing what? By understanding the meaning of temperature. Okay, so we use the concept of temperature in every aspect in our life. And now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we really need this concept because this is how we can differentiate between the sick people and the healthy people. Because if you don't
need hot weather to kill.
Yes, so if you, yeah, okay. So if you don't understand or you can translate what is the meaning of thermal energy by numbers, you will not be able to give like scientific information about the amount of thermal or heat energy inside an object. So it's really vital and important for us to understand how important it is, the temperature concept. Okay, so let's go step by step. Now, at the beginning, we talked about thermal energy. And we said that thermal energy or heat energy is the energy of moving particles inside the object. The substance starts to gain energy, and this makes them move even faster. This is what thermal energy is. And then how can we understand, or what do we feel when an object has thermal energy in it? This is where the concept of heat came, where the concept of heat came. What is it? That heat is the flow of thermal energy from one object to another. Once you touch an object that has a thermal energy, some thermal energy inside it, you feel the hotness in your hands. This is because the thermal energy just start to flow from the object to your hands. Now, the third thing, or the third step that we talked about, is that how can we translate thermal energy into numerical information? I want a number that help me understand how much thermal energy is inside the object. And this is where the concept of temperature comes from. It's how hot or cold something is. And we can measure temperature by what? Raise your hand if you know the answer. What is the tool that we can use to measure temperature? Yes, Saif?
Thermometer.
Thermometer, exactly. So it's very easy for us, after knowing the concept of temperature, which will help us understand how much thermal energy inside any object, we can measure it using a specific tool called the thermometer. Okay? So temperature is the measure, or it measures the amount of thermal energy in an object. If the object has a lot of thermal energy, so this object has a high temperature, and this what makes it hot. But if it doesn't have that much thermal energy, so this means that it has a very low temperature, and it means that this object is cold. Okay, so far, guys, do you get the idea? Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I told you, it's a little bit
Someone said no.
laggy. So who said no?
I don't know.
Is there anyone said no? Anyone still confused?
Ms. Jaida said.
No, Jaida
No, I
said
think
that
so.
someone said no. Who said no? Did anyone say no? All right. So that is the 3 steps that we are going to understand today. We're going to talk now about the thermometer, and then we will answer some worksheets in the book. Now, as Saif said, the tool that measures the temperature is the thermometer, and we can actually measure the temperature using 2 units. Does anyone know what are the units that we use? That we use to measure the thermometer. What is the unit? To measure the temperature. What is the unit that we use? There are 2 units. There is one very famous in the countries like us and in Africa and Europe, and there is another unit that USA and people in America use. Yes, Nadim.
Degrees Celsius and
And what? Degrees Celsius is correct. Ayman, do you know the other unit? Ayman, do you know the other unit?
Something like Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, excellent. So degrees Celsius, as Nadim said, and there is another one called Fahrenheit. Now we know that in order to write degrees Celsius, we write like the symbol of degrees, which is the small circle above the number, and next to it we write C, which stands for Celsius. And Fahrenheit, we write only capital F next to the number. All right. So in order to be able to be able to read the temperature, there are two types of units that we can use. And by the way, they represent different numbers. Okay, the degrees Celsius is not equal to Fahrenheit. So for example, if the temperature today is 42 degrees Celsius, that doesn't mean that it's also 42 Fahrenheit. Okay, it has different measures. All right, but we use the degrees Celsius here, and the Fahrenheit is mainly used in USA. All right. Okay, now how the thermometer works. Inside the thermometer, there is a liquid inside the thermometer. You find this liquid, whether it's red or sometimes it's silver, it has different colors. This liquid is very, very, very sensitive to heat changes. And this is why we use specific liquids inside the thermometers. We just don't use any liquid. We use specific liquids inside the thermometers. This liquid should be very sensitive to any tiny heat change. This is number one. Number two is that it has to have like very high boiling point. Why? Because, for example, if we used water as the liquid, again, people are using chat. Yes, 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 Ayman, yes. You can tell me.
Miss, my mother told me that the liquid something inside the thermometer is called mercury.
Yes, and some other
But
thermometers.
I never knew that it might contain alcohol.
No, sometimes, some other times it may contain alcohol. And as I told you, it has to have high boiling point. Why? Before I say the answer, why do you think should the liquid inside the thermometer should have high boiling point, guys? Think about it. Raise your hand if you have an answer for this. Huh? Why do you think it should have a high boiling point? Yes, Nadim. Yes, Nadim. Yes, Nadim is going to kill himself. Huh?
It should have a high boiling point because when your temperature is high, it could it changes its color to red.
No.
And
No. It should have high. What is the meaning of boiling point? Do you know? Do you know what's the meaning of
No.
of boiling point? It's when the liquid starts to turn into what?
Into gas.
Yes. So the boiling
vapor.
point, yes, boiling point is when the liquid starts to turn into gas. So I mean that it's the temperature which the liquid starts to turn into gas. For example, in water, it's 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. So, but the water starts to turn into gas at about 50, it starts to evaporate at about 50 degrees Celsius. The idea is, why should the liquid inside the thermometer have this high temperature before it starts to turn into gas? Hey, Layan, why do you think?
Yes, Miss. Can you please repeat yourself because I couldn't hear you? The internet was lagging.
I am saying that why should the liquid inside the thermometer should have a high boiling point, which means that it should start to turn into gas at a very high temperature.
Yes, because if it turned to gas at in a low temperature, it's going to fade away, and it needs to have a high boiling point. So when we need to measure the temperature of anything, it's going to go up and tell us.
Yes,
because it's going to rise.
Exactly. This is because, thank you so much, Layan. As Layan said, this is because if you have a liquid inside the thermometer that has or that changes into gas at a very low temperature, this means that you will not be able to measure the temperature because the liquid will start turn into gas and you will not be able to read the temperature. So this is why the liquid inside the thermometer should start be turning into gas at a very high temperature. Okay, I just want to know whether the people raising their hands, do you have a question or do you want to answer? If you don't have a question, please put your hands down. If you do not have a question, put your hands down. Ayman, do you have a question? Okay, Dana, do you have a question? All right. So thermometers are made of glass. The body of the thermometer is made of glass. Sometimes it's made of plastic, and it should have a liquid inside it, which is very sensitive to heat changes, and which is also have a high boiling point, which means that it turns into gas at a very high temperature. The most famous liquids that are used inside any thermometer is the mercury and alcohol. Okay, now I will give you the 10 minutes snack time, guys. It's 9:20, so we will meet again after 10 minutes and I will be checking the quiz. All right, I'll be seeing you in 10 minutes. Bye, guys.